International Malleable Iron Company Limited. IMICO, the Malleable.
The voice of IMICO grows quiet, yet there is still so much to say. And to say it is history is not enough, and to say it is beauty is not enough, unless you will see, unless you will hear. Will you hear this story? Will you hear? Generators, pistons and conveyors always grinding, hammers against metal, thudding and pounding, whistles and sirens sharply blowing to release men from the heat and noise, the dust and smoke they breathe in, to release them.
Okay, I'm Jim Cunningham. I started here up in the machine shop on September the 12th, 1949. Came out of high school. I worked here until September the 7th, 1989. We had a great time here. Poured a lot of iron, made a lot of molds. Went through a lot of hours down here. Good time. Can't complain. When you come in here in the morning, you look forward to coming and you enjoyed it. And but in the later years, the last couple of years, no, things just went to pot around here with the management. The employees didn't want to work for the management that we had around here. We had white hats running around here, which the employees didn't approve of. They ran around here and didn't do nothing but paperwork. And the guys didn't get along. I think that's one of the reasons that the mill went down.
How men worked. In noise, darkness, filth, making battleships from planet chunks, smiling their minutes to this. Dad and the grandfathers brought home machine odors and industrial smudge, consoling fragrance at dinner time. He said that they endured by kibitzing, practical jokes for practically a lifetime.
My uncle was superintendent for years from about 1918 to 1961. He died in 61. I had a grandfather that worked in the galvanized. He only worked up there for 5 or 6 years. I had a brother, Bill, who worked here. He has passed away. There was myself. There was a few other numerous uncles and nephews that worked in the plant also. The clientele here was immigrants who came in from the old country over to here. You didn't require to have any brains. All you required was a lot of brawn around here. And years ago, when foundry used to be a rough place to work, and it was a tough place to work, and there's no doubt about it. But in the later years, where we were all automatic molding machines and everything was handled automatically, there was no real manual labor left here anymore. But as I said, you didn't have to have any brains to work in a foundry, and that's a lot of people took that attitude. Anybody that worked at the mill had to be a dummy. But as I said, it put a lot of bread and butter on a lot of tables.
The Malleable set up shop in Canada at the peak of Ontario's industrial economy. In 1912, IMICO, a branch plant of the American Illinois Malleable Iron Company, located in Guelph with much encouragement. The Canadian federal government made it very attractive for American companies to locate branch plants in Canada by imposing heavy tariffs on imported products. Many artisans were absorbed into the industrial workforce and became a mere extension of a machine. Although foundries were mass-producing castings, there was a blend of repetitive, mindless labor with jobs that required old-world, highly skilled craftsmen. My grandfather worked with metal, I remember. His hands. He came home clean with welder's goggles to watch the sun's eclipse. I try to picture him beyond the storytelling armchair of childhood memory, but cannot imagine him among the sparks, metal, fire, noise.
Main products here was ballpark. We made a lot of railroad equipment. We made a lot of castings for the automotive. We made a lot of castings for the farm people. John Deere, Massey Ferguson, Cockshut, Buffalo Brake. We made a lot of railroad equipment for Buffalo Brake. For the automotive, we done a lot of work for Chrysler. We had our own line of pipe fittings here. What used to be called IMICO pipe fittings. We closed that down in 1975. We closed the machine shop down and we stopped making pipe fittings and started to bring them in from offshore. which is much cheaper bringing them in from offshore than what we could manufacture them and thread them here.
Thrust from castings, forging ahead, launched from blazed beams and structured warps, they quarter clouds through windows. Industrial designs, rust dribbles, seared joists, ashen brick, mold clots, singed fringe. Disarray more aesthetic than intention, rides of structural members fire-flexed, eaves dropped in startling twists.
In the arbor, where trees join a factory to sky, the light is green, soft, and the sound of leaves against metal is like crickets. I am watched by a girl in a photograph, big eyes surprised at my intrusion into her secret garden.
Here we have what you call a flask. The flask is made in two sections. A drag half, which is your bottom half, which has pins on it, your cope half, which has eyes on it for lining up with your pins on your flask here. So once again, these are what we got here. There's your drag half. We'll use this as a pattern to demonstrate for you what a pattern is used for. There's your pattern on there. This is the core plate that's on there. Your pattern fits onto your drag half like that, like so. Put your cope half on top for like so, and you roll it over. Grab your shovel, fill your mold up with sand, smooth it around like that there. Grab your shovel, which we use to peen it. You peen it around here like that, around the side here to make the sides good and hard, and you just pack it down here like that, tap it down there like that. Take a scraper, scrape your excess sand off like that there. Put your scraper back over there. So then you turn around and you give your molding machine a kick here. You have a lever here which runs a vibrator that's fastened down here that vibrates your pattern. And you pull your cope off, set your cope up on your molding machine, give it another shot, lift your pattern off, set your pattern down someplace. So anyways, we set the cores in the mold like that. Cores are in the mold there. Grab your cope half. Take your cope half from up here, set it down on here, push it down, open your buttons up, take your flask off. Now you just have a mold here. You set your flask on the board, you pick up your mold, you run out and you set it down on the floor. That's making a mold. Then later on in the afternoon or morning, whenever you were pouring your iron off, you would go down to your furnace, run down there with your big 50-pound ladles, stand there at the furnace. When they were ready to tap, a bunch of guys would be all standing around the little circle there. As soon as they punched the hole in where the bung was, out the molten iron would come. Each guy would run in there with his ladle, grab his ladle, run all the way down the foundry, pour it into his molds like that, turn around, run all the way back, get another ladle. That's how they used to do it years ago. When you make malleable iron, as you cast malleable in the foundry, it comes out in a hard iron state. Subsequently, it's hard and brittle. It's just like glass, and if you hit it with a hammer, it shatters. So to get your elongation and your strength out of malleable iron, you have to heat treat them. This is the exit end of the anneal. After the three baskets were pushed in from the other end, three baskets come out this end here. They come out here, and they go over here. The wheelabrator used to be sitting in here. The castings would come down to here, dumped in the bucket of the wheelabrator, hoisted up into the wheelabrator, cleaned, tumbled in there for shot blast, and dumped out the other side into tote boxes. Then from there, they would go to the grinding room. Malleable iron has a tendency to have a lot of fins on it, so we used to have what we call chipping hammers. We used to chip the fins off, and the casting looked okay. It went in the good bay. If it was scrap, it went into another bay. Then from there, castings would go over to the grinding wheels over here. You can see all our grinding, some of our grinding stands over here that used to be here. With grinding stands going all down here, grinding stands go over on there. We have numerous different grinding stations around this area here. These are the exhaust pipes here for sucking the dust up. Guy would stand here, grind the castings, throw them in his good box, Once you got a box full, the castings went away and were weighed, and then they would be counted and looked at it once again. They'd be inspected and shipped out to customer.
They punched out after the cope of dragged minutes, factory signs, transcripts after the vortex, whimsical epigrams, nonsensical directives. Maintenance department, tool and die.
Walk into another world, cathedral cool, where life and death merge, and elements paint absence to an oil-painted finish. This absence inspires memory or imagination to furnish spaces where substance is lost and stories remain untold.
Everybody walked away from it, just left to here. The gates were left wide open, and anybody that wanted anything just came in and took whatever they wanted to take. And nobody cared. The banks didn't give a damn, and nobody cared about it. So the place was left open. That's what you see, what you got here now. The banks got their money for the equipment. The banks got their money for their for our castings that we had here and our outstanding accounts. The banks got their money for that. So the banks didn't lose a hell of a lot of money in this place here. And if they hadn't held a gun to somebody's head around here and they had sold it when they had a couple of chances to sell this place here, the place likely would have been still running, because there were numerous guys that were willing to buy this place, but the banks were holding out for too much money and they just didn't get what they wanted to get for it. They were trying to get $7 million for it, but they couldn't get $7 million for it. With what they had done when they came out with the pollution problem, and they'd done Dr. Reverend done a survey on it, and they come up and said we had chromium on the soil. Damn it, the chromium on the soil was out in the parking lot where we used to spray use motor oil on it to keep the dust down. We used motor oil put all around the city of Guelph here years ago, was put on all the dirt roads. So you can just imagine how much contamination there is in some of those roads that are around the city of Guelph. It's just ridiculous. I used to dream about this place all the time. I still dream about Carver's going to start the place up again. We're going to put all new equipment in this place, but it'll never transpire. It's just, as I said, it put a lot of bread on a lot of tables, and I'm sorry as hell to see it go like this. And there was no excuse for this. This place should have been picked up by somebody else still operating as a foundry. Nowadays, they're crying for foundries nowadays, people to make castings for them. People just can't get castings anymore. It's just a shame, but that's water under the table now, I guess.
Oil sprayed on chromium dust, masks discharge, stratifies the warriors in leaner times after. Pipes burst, water over the bridge, fire out of control, castaways, jump and swim, no need to close the gates. IMICO was abandoned by its American owners in 1989. After the closure, IMICO went from being a place of employment to being the most controversial site in Guelph because of the pollution. But mockery and knowing leaks from this impish face, this flat heckle, forged by elements and tricks of fire. It apprehends my soul parts, theft in the light of day.
Hi, I work here in 63, and this is the first time I've been back, I think, since then. Behind me is Alice Street, and after I quit this job, I used to have a recurring dream of coming to the Malleable. Actually, in my dream, I used to walk up Stevenson and down Beverly, but somehow I'd always end up coming in this gate, and I would end up in a room, in a part of the Malleable that I never really was in real life. But in my dream, 3 times I've had this dream, I'd end up in this one specific room. Yeah, the door is right here. This is the door to my mysterious room, and we're going to go and take a look at it. This is the room I always seem to end up in when I'm dreaming about coming back to this place. And I was always seemed to be here waiting to start my job, and you know what? I would always wake up before I got back into the main part of the factory again. You know, why I would dream of being in this room all the time, I really can't tell you. I'm fairly sane.
These walls, melancholy echo of a dream past into dust, memory, and the keenness of an artist's eye. Through this museum of echoes and shadows that no one can visit except through my eyes, I am led by signs like archaeological labels, led through tunnels of time to landscapes beyond me, peopled by vague characters from stories I am told, dreams I remember. We called it the penthouse, and from the balcony we could see Our Lady. I build a bridge with words so we may look back, always go back. I scrape the skin of memory, collect dirt from beneath its fingernails. A detective, I construct a truth from fiction. I fill the gaps of space and sound with myself and ghosts of my own imagination.
My dad worked here from 1934 to 1959. He was a chipper. He would be bent over most of the day doing that job. They had chipper hammers, and he'd just bend over, grab the casting, and knock the slag off it, then go on to the next casting. We weren't a rich family. I mean, we were poor people. I mean, but at least we had food on our table and a roof over our heads. And my mom and dad managed to buy and pay for a home, but it was all on Malleable iron wages. Like, if it wasn't for the Malleable iron, so I can't look at it as a negative place. I imagine a lot of other people in the neighborhood feel the same way. It fed us. We weren't concerned with the politics, or we weren't concerned with whether the states owned it or who owned it. We were just concerned whether we were going to eat that day.
Feed the fires, fires roaring, taste the coal and smoke. This air is thick with memory, and the taste of iron thickens my tongue.
Flaky figures, killing clothes, paper-thin bravado. Perhaps they soften the sandpaper hours, carnal reference, after serving hell from a ladle. Among chaotic strands, released and no longer desired, I feel these images strangely maternal.
Yeah, I bought this house in 1977 and sold her in 82 or 80. We moved out in about 82 or 83. I lived here when a lot of people wouldn't. The Malleable iron has always been a part of my life. My dad worked there for 25 years. I worked there for a year. I used to live down there on Moore Street for 18 years, and where a lot of people wouldn't buy the house in those days because of the Malleable, the noise and the smells. It didn't bother me or my wife at the time. We were used to it by living in the neighborhood. Matter of fact, that smell would sometimes be nostalgic because of the memories that would trigger in my younger days. This company, there's a lot of controversy about it today, I know, but to us it was never political. This fed us. A lot of my friends, I know my own dad worked here. It fed them. It fed the family. It kept food on our table. I know it's an eyesore today and something has to be done, but back in those days it was part of our neighborhood. It was part of our lifestyle. A lot of Europeans coming over had to have jobs, and this place always gave them jobs. It was hard work, it was tough work, and it was dirty work, but it was food on the table. We weren't concerned who owned it or who did what. All we were concerned with was whether we ate again that day, and this place used to give us our food.
The neighborhood transforms into a jolted circle of hands, punch cards into shopping lists. Factory remains, a bookmark in the episode of ends. The sight makes my eyes ache. Up Chuck Mound's crust boots, final footprints heap upon recollections.
King. I used to work here. I was Fontanado at that time when I started. That was way back in 1947, I guess it was. And I hung around here for about 45 years, 46. It's sure changed now, though. Oh, and I remember going to the lunchroom down here, and the girls would walk along here and step into, just to try to avoid that hot metal. But they used to let us do it. Today they wouldn't do that anymore because that's a poo-poo now. But we did it. Oh, okay. Here's all the slag that comes off the molds. Well, I think this is really interesting stuff. I brought some home, and I've got them up as sculptures on my wall. Not in the house, out in the carport. However, I have seen them in museums and in art galleries. And they've maybe got them painted gold or something like that, because they're interesting shapes. And it's just scrap stuff that nobody wants. It's just what's left over from the mold. But I think they're cute. I'm glad I work here, because I understand a lot of the other things that are going on in factories and technical stuff and all this. I enjoy that now. Now I think it's very creative. At that time it was just a job.
Industrial relics, pigeonholed, function lost, mimic human form. Souvenirs of labor, sculptural slag on the living room wall, decades spillover, laborious chores romanticized. Perhaps it was creative.
And that would be full of the sand there, different types of sand depending on what cores they were making. There was a bench sitting here, and then they would make them, set them on the plate, and then they would go onto a conveyor belt into the ovens. Then when they came out, we had to take these and clean off this little line that's there, patch them all up and pack them in there, and then they went out into the foundry. It's the hollow shape that goes into whatever you're making. You know, wherever there's a hole anywhere, there had to be a core in it to make this hole, and the iron runs in around it. The tray with the raw cores slid onto here, and then this thing rotates, keeps going around, and it bakes them, just like a pizza oven. And it got smoky lots of times too, really smoky, because once they lift this gate up, all the fumes would come out of there. And it wasn't very pleasant. However, we put up with all that. It was our job.
Like catacombs, dark and damp, the core room glistens with tears and dreams of the dead. The cores lie in open caskets, awaiting their wake and our remembrance.
Grounded in crates like embraced ceramic dolls, they mourn the demise of a work ethic.
As far as it being an American company, that had nothing to do with us. It was, you know, all the people that were operating here, like Jimmy Cunningham and John Boyd and all these guys that were really good. It was just like a big family. They were good guys. I had two sisters that worked here. And I had a brother-in-law that worked here. And, many friends. And a lot of Guelphites have all worked here at some time or another. And my father worked here for, 35 years or so. He used to operate these annealing ovens. The annealing ovens went in there. It was all kinds of gadgets. They had to work 7 days a week because they never shut down. They just had to keep going. It was a good job, though. He loved it. That's why he told me to come in here and work. Thought it was cool. He says, you better go down there and see about that Malleable. So anyway, I came in here and I stayed here. This is the only job I've ever had.
This collapse of strong things, of steel and timber braces, and embraces of men, supplant my core room, the place I keep myself and things I know myself to be.
Water drips, quenching memories of fire, and dust dances in sunbeams like eyes that cry. The clocks have stopped.
The clock, obnoxious annunciator, summoned and released. Minutes counted, pages in the sacrifice. Punctuality, coffee, overtime, retirement, fire.
The clocks have stopped, and the silos, still full of sand, measure time's acceleration, beauty in decay.
My name's Doug Noble, and I've worked here at the Malleable for close to 10 years, back from 79 to 89, just prior to the closure of it. Oh, this is still the automatic molding machine area with the 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, just the 400s are in here. Everything's pretty well identical other than the machinery's gone. Everything looks the same to me without the machinery here as it did with the machinery here. I can still see the machinery, no problem there. I can still see how it operated and everything like that there. I can see how it still worked.
Imagine sounds that feet make on crumbling brick or charred timber, sonorous in this listening silence. And imagine sounds we cannot hear, and sights seen by eyes that smile from a black and white photograph, watching us, watching. Their touch sticks to my skin and the story I write. My presence, like a ghost in their history, resonates in this silence.
Yeah, this instrument here was just more or less for your air ventilation. These are skimming rods that they used to use in the furnace to take off a lot of the slag on the top. And what you used to do is you used to stick it into the furnace and just keep rolling it around until all the slag got onto the plate down on the bottom.
Grand lung, largest machine, visible benefactor, exhausted soot and sighs of relief. In silence, atmosphere and the exhausted mingle. Pigeons nest at the larynx, filtering musty air.
Okay, these here were the specified boots that we were supposed to wear, gaiters. As you can see, there's no laces or anything like that, so if you had any iron go down inside, you could just slip your boot off really quick and it'd stop a lot of the burning. But there was a fella here one time, he was wearing a pair of just ordinary work boots with the eyes and the laces, and he pulled off a jacket off of the cope and drag one day, and the iron just didn't quite solidify, and when he pulled it off, it ran out between the cope and the drag and down into the eye of his shoes, and just sort of fused his toes together.
Gloves, goggles, gaiters, paper wraps against burning, and an iron fist. A chance of mishap, a chance to misshape. Injury knocks bread off the table and fuses body to soul.
If you did your job, nobody got on your ass, and even if you didn't do your job, they'd bicker at you a little bit, but not too much. But it was running really well here while old man Carver was still alive. Then after he died, his son took over, and from there it just went downhill. He just didn't have a clue on what to do in a foundry, and the people that he brought in, they were just as clueless as he was. There were certain people here that should have been kept here and kept in certain positions so that they could run the foundry properly. And in hindsight, I'd say that this place would probably still be going if he hadn't have done that. Because I'm sure there's foundries still going all over the place, and I'm sure this one would still be up and running anyways. But I think they should knock it down, to be honest with you. It's been up long enough, and it's starting to be more of a hazard than anything else for kids or whatever the case is, and they should just come in and level it down, and that's it, have it done with. So if they wanted to do something in respect to a historical site being Malleable, would be, I don't know if they built a complex, be it apartment, be it houses, whatever the case is, they call it Malleable Park or whatever, just as a dedication to what used to be here, so that people still know what's here.
The city of Guelph won the ownership of the former IMICO site in 1998. The city has now demolished IMICO. The future use of the site is currently undetermined. This space shifts between reason and imagination like a mirage. Speed up time. Watch a field become a factory, metal skeleton cloaked in concrete skin. Now watch it wither, slowly slip into a memory whispered by a field of grass. The voice of IMICO grows quiet, yet there is still so much to say. And to say it is history is not enough. And to say it is beauty is not enough. Unless you will see, unless you will hear. Listen.